Good day, everybody. My name is the Sober Boys Walifatse from the Big R. You know that the Big R would like to share experiences and knowledge. That's the most important thing. As much as you know that this company deals with finance is everywhere. And I normally tell people and say, knowledge is money. So where do you get knowledge? That's another question. Get knowledge from people who have traveled the road. In the arts and entertainment industry, there are people who are forerunners who laid the foundation. And good news today, I've got one of those legends, an activist in the industry, Blitz Kid Sithole. I've known Blitz Kid for many years now. We are friends. Blitz Kid always come to my rescue whenever I need his assistance. He's a very good person in terms of their personality, all right? But what I've discovered when I speak to Blitz Kid, he's got a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge needs to be shared, especially for the up and coming to know what's happening. Blitz Kid, welcome to the Bigger Show.
Sibonga msheni, sibonga Dr. Sithole, sibonga mfana kaMabutho, sibonga ukuthola leli thuba.
Yeah.
I accepted this invitation because I had thought, when I had a discussion with Mfoga Michelle, and him eventually inviting me to come to the Big R. And I think the R today is going to be useful. The releasing of relevant information. And I want to base this on the question. And this question, you as a arts and culture practitioner, you as an arts administrator, you as a cultural activist, you as a Department of Arts and Culture employee, you as a senior official in the Department of Arts and Culture, or whoever else is a leader at whatever rank, try and wrestle with it. It's actually food for thought. And my wish and humble prayer is that at some point I must be hearing that this kind of issues have been dealt with, or they are in the process of being dealt with. And these are all based around the question: what was the intention of having the Department of Arts, Recreation, Culture and Heritage in our country? And the reason being that in the past, it used to be understood to be just an area of entertainment which many of us are uncomfortable about. We're much more than that. We're just not going to allow a situation where we're locked in and called entertainers. It can't be correct. And here I have one of the legends in the arts. I know for a fact that he will support what I'm saying. We are simply not entertainers. We are more than that, as Dr. John Kani would agree with me at all times when we engage. Entertainment is just a small slice of the entire bread, the entire loaf of bread. We are storytellers. We are social commentators. We are creative people. We are the people who pass knowledge. So in other ways, dissemination of information is a greater part of who we are. We were change agents of society's mentality, how society begins to think. We are in one form or the other thought leaders. We then plant the seed that if things are in this state of affairs, what then do we say? I said earlier that we are what one would call social commentators, and I'm going to be ending up, as we agreed, with a poem that actually defines what the situation, the current situation we're in as a nation. Now, the question I'm putting forward to go into this discussion is, what was the intention of our leaders when they decided to have the Department of Arts, Culture and Heritage as part of the departments that are in government? I want to first applaud them for doing that, but I want to engage them in reflecting on what was the intention, because from where I'm sitting, the intention for Gamsheng should have been that it becomes a formalized sector wherein job creation is created, and job creation in a proper sense, not what we used to do in the past years. And in the past years, I must compliment people like Ndade Gibson Kent and Ndade Buk Chabalala in the Free State, and Ndade Zwandile Makina in the Eastern Cape, and Ndade Boiki Mashame in Gauteng, Ndade Sam Hangwane in Gauteng, and many others who actually saw to it that productions happen. There are performances that are happening right around the country out of their own pockets. At that time, you had no National Arts Council, you had no Department of Arts and Culture, you had no other funding agency that was in place. You had all of them, your BASAs, your Arts and Culture Trust, they did not exist. But I want us to stop for a minute and applaud them for plowing that seed of the love to theatre, the love to creative arts performances from their own pocket. And many others were supporters of that. And I want them to say to them, well done, folks. We applaud your efforts. For me, it's called nation building at its best. Now, you're talking about people who would, out of their own coffers, draw money for us to be paid, money that comes sometimes from the door there. And remember that some of us were involved in protest theatre, and in protest theatre, sometimes the authorities of the day, the municipality would allow you the hall, and then sometimes they do not allow you, and because they would be simply saying to you, we can't allow this. This need dramatic, this politic. Some of the authorities who are in charge would be saying to us, and we'll pack up and go back. And sometimes a week would end. You are in areas like your Carolinas, your Peter Thieves, your Wackerstroms, the kind of areas that were not very accommodative to this kind of work. Now, it means the whole week then, you are running the risk of not having anything in terms of income. Now, these are some of the issues that were there before. You are aware that one day your family will have a slice of bread, the other day they will not. How much you get, when you get it, all that is a question of guesswork. So, when I say what intention was there, I mean it. Are the authorities post 27th April 94 in our democratic order, did they have in mind some plan, thinking, and wish, and implementation program that seeks to make the arts, culture, heritage a truly job creation sector? I am not sure whether it is true for now. Because when some of us were operating as leaders in the labor movement and organized labor at the time, and by the way, I must also mention that it is difficult to have a formalized union and that is sustainable in this sector because of the actual scenario there, where you're not sure of any income as an artist. And if you're not sure, then there is no way that one day when you get some form of income, it is the money you will be making sure that you squeeze, you squeeze into the payment of the room in which you stay. You will squeeze into the payment of the kindergarten or crèche fees for the child. You will squeeze to make sure that there's something to chew for your partner, for your child, and for yourself. And there is no way that a subscription fee could be left to go to your union. And so the lifestyle that we live and the kind of scenario that we find ourselves in does not allow for any union to survive. Because any union survives because of its members who then pay in subscriptions. And then you find a scenario where most of the artists in Fogamship will then end up trying hard to be closer, to be friendly to whoever is in a position to create work. And that's why we're in this situation. Now, I was hoping that the intention would be to change the entire paradigm of the past before the democratic order came in. I was hoping that now we will then begin to speak about the social benefits that we did not get before 1994. They will now be available. Now, we would have thought by now, would have worked hard with all the relevant parties to make sure that a proper employee-employer kind of relationship is existent. A proper employer-employee relationships which is shepherded by what one would call a bargaining council. And there was one at some stage. It was there in Fogamshemu. It used to be called the Entertainment Industry Bargaining Council. But some of us were activists at the time, thought it is not serving its purpose, and challenged the authorities that you cannot have an entertainment industry bargaining council that is incomplete in terms of its composition. And why is it incomplete? It had, remember, any bargaining council must have both parties, the employer bodies, all stakeholders, the employer bodies being represented, the employee bodies being represented,
by the union,
and the government. Correct. Correct information. But you see what the one we had did not have serious players from the employer side. I remember vividly. They had their people who are owning video shop owners as employers, and those are irrelevant. At least we then said that time, why don't they then rope in the Independent Producers Organization? Why don't they rope in the Broadcasters Association? Why don't they rope in organizations like the South African Music Producers Association or Music Composers Association? Those, for me, does seem to represent the employees. Now, I mean the employers, sorry.
employers,
Unfortunately, those were missing. So we challenged, and when we challenged, we were advised that no, write to the secretary of the bargaining council, and the secretary of the bargaining council then decided to say in his answer that we must then take it up with the Department of Labor. Up until now, I have not heard of a revived bargaining council that will sort the mess out. Two, we then thought it will be important, like all other sectors, to have a body that is governing everything in the arts, everything in culture, everything in heritage under one roof, so that the voice of those practitioners in those particular arts and culture and heritage sectors are held by government, are held by whoever would want to engage with them from one roof, under one roof.
Yeah, business too.
And that's how the SIFSA was born. Now, SIFSA, one would be keen to know whether its aims and objectives in its formation. And here one has to thank the former Minister of Arts and Culture, who was very receptive of the idea when we from Labour came through. And one has to be very grateful to Kosatu there, to the former Minister of Arts and Culture.
The late Dr. Ben Kuzu.
No, Mr. Paul Mashatile at the time, who was receptive, and we started discussing this. And later, it emanated from a discussion that was held around 2009, where the president, the then president, the former president, Mr. Zuma had called all of us to hear, just to listen to what our issues were. And then, of course, there was a lull again for the next 3 years or so. The meeting that he had called was around 2009, but in 2010, 11, 12, quiet again. After those quiet 3 years, we then started engaging around 2012 in this one, which then resulted in him getting people who would then lead the process. And I remember vividly that amongst them was Yvonne Chakachaga, who was leading the task team, and yours truly was deputy of that, and the executive officer and the executive director of the entire process was another creative arts activist and a lawyer by profession, Mr. Ntantla Sidisi, and we were all dirtied our hands into making sure that something called SIFTA comes, is born. It's actually born. The Cultural Creative Industries Federation of South Africa, SIFSA, was born. And by the time it was born, there was unfortunately a change of scenario in the cabinet. And Mr. Nachi Mtetwa had taken over the portfolio of arts, culture, and we must compliment him, because he didn't seek to start afresh. He simply continued where his predecessors had. And then eventually it was launched in Bloemfontein in 2015. Now we are hoping that would be the body that will take care of all the issues that are affecting the people in the creative arts sector. It was the benchmarking in the formation of SIFSA came from the sport one, SASCOC.
Yeah, SASCOC.
Yeah, we benchmarked it with SASCOC, we benchmarked it with the National Nursing Council of South Africa. Those two, we said these would look like the proper procedures that one can adopt so that it takes its route and takes its direction and follow that type of benchmark. Now, why was it necessary? It was because we had said we are able to engage with the minister and say to the minister, Minister, if there are any issues that you'll be able to take and direct here that are a bother to this person called a creative arts practitioner or a cultural or a performer or an artist, then we must have what is called an interministerial task team. And that interministerial task team was going to do this work. And this is the work. Each time you have a minister who is responsible of a particular portfolio, all the issues in that particular portfolio that affect the practitioners there are resolved by that particular. If you want to do anything about education, then you know the Ministry of Education, Basic and Higher Education, is going to deal with that. If you want to do anything that pertains to health, the nurses, the CEOs of hospitals, they know exactly where they go, the Department of Health. And it is unfortunate to note that with us, unfortunately, we do not have a one-stop shop ministry that begins to lock itself into our issues and find solutions. If you want issues of making sure that piracy, intellectual property issues are being dealt with, you go to the DTI. If you want to make sure that the issues of employment, the issues that affect labor, you go to the Department of Labor. If you want to look at issues that have to deal with the health and the stability of us as the practitioners, let's make an example and say, here is this musician who is beginning to have problems with his ears because of the noise when he's on duty. The first thing he must be doing, he can't go to the department and say what kind of arrangement has been done for us. Where do we, for instance, get discount for attention to medication and all that kind of stuff. So we said, no, because the challenges that affect the practitioners are not located under one ministry or under one portfolio. Therefore, to resolve that, we rather get an interministerial task team that then look at all issues affecting the people in the creative arts. Whether they are in the fine, in the visual, all in the performing arts, all forms of the arts, plus, remember, in the performing arts we also have the technical side of things, wherein you rope in the people like the roadies, Freddie Nyatella's group, so all these things find a home. All these issues find a home. And it is then that home that will be dealing with those issues. Unfortunately, that task team never took place. So I would be interested to know what was the intention of the department about its formation. Because without these pillars one is referring to, it is not going to be easy then to construct or to bake a job creation cake that is formal out of this. Remember, the current person who's operating, whether it be a cameraman, whether it be a sound person, whether it be a director, whether it be, remember, all of them, the lady who's responsible for costumes and you name them, the makeup person, all of them, unfortunately, are not having a scenario where they can begin to say, I am able to take a housing loan, I am able to take a car loan, I am going to take that loan for the study loan for my children, because this person is in a permanently temporal scenario.
Yeah.
So you cannot start a normal life because you can't have a normal life in an abnormal situation. And that's where one would have thought these kind of structures that one is talking to would have made it a bit lighter, a bit easier, and a bit friendly to this person who keeps on providing information, who keeps on providing entertainment, who keeps on providing stories, who keeps on reading and writing for the community out there, from the nation out there. And so one would then still go back to the question before I give a pause to allow my host to question or ask any question. I still come back to my question. What was the intention of creating this particular portfolio if it falls short of meeting the requirements of the practitioners there.
Rakit, you know, having listened to what you have been saying, I think you had about 20 to 25 minutes. To me, it tells me that the arts people, they are crying for help. I wonder whether the bigger platform, I'm talking about public broadcasters, do they give you the opportunity to ventilate all these things? So I allowed you to talk about this because in everything that you highlighted, maybe there are some lot of lessons that needs to be picked up. And then I want to say, right from the beginning, you said some things that are very, very important that we need to touch on. I think my interview with you is going to be in twofold. Today, I wanted you to ventilate, and then I'm going to ask questions based on that. And then the next one, we'll do it looking at your profile as Rakit. All right. Now, I want to say before I start, we are starting on a somber note. If you remember quite well that we have just lost Shona Ferguson. May his soul rest in peace. Yeah, so I don't know whether you have words of that you want to pass to the families of Shona, Petshange, Tsepotsula, as you said, a whole lot of others who have passed on, your Benzi Ngubane and so on. So we are starting on a somber note. But I'm going to go back on your input, because your input is very important. We need to look at that input. Because I'll tell you one thing, I'm going to try by all means that at some point we engage the Minister of Arts and Culture, if the Minister will be available, and engage him and discuss. If things go according to plan, I'll try also by all means to engage the Minister of Labour, Mr. Tula Singwesi, whom fortunately enough, he was my chairperson locally here in Tembisa when we were starting the South African Teachers, the South African Democratic Teachers Union. So I'll try to find out, because this cry, you know, if a person listens, it's a cry, and this cry is not from you. It represents the majority of actors, the majority of people in that industry who are crying. We'll go back to that one. I just wanted to say a word to these fallen heroes who have just fallen.
Thank you. In fact, let me be honest with you and be open and frank. I just did this to respect your request. Otherwise, I do not get encouraged to engage in this kind of conversations, because these are profound conversations that are supposed to find space in the departments that you've just spoken about, especially the Department of Arts and Culture. In the creative arts sector, we don't only have challenges, we also have the kind of languages that we utilize for different situations. For instance, when we've lost some of our people or some of our colleagues, we do not say he or she passed away yesterday. We simply say it's a wrap. It's a wrap to a few of them, a wrap to Pet Shange, a wrap to the village pope, Tsapotsula, a wrap to Shona Ferguson, a rep to a poet, to a teacher, a lecturer in the arts, a cultural arts practitioner, a debater of note, an administrator of the arts, par excellence, none other than Maishe Maponya. We say to all of them, thank you for your contribution. We, in the arts, in the creative arts in general, and in the performing arts in particular, will forever miss you. Your contribution, all of you, has been noticed and acknowledged. May you all rest in peace. We hope your spirit will be assisting us in trying to find answers in the many questions in this vulnerable sector. Fare thee well, my brothers.
You know, this show is called The Big R. As I indicated, we are dealing with financial matters, and you have touched on very, very important aspects that are pertaining to artists or the practitioners. I want to send a message out there that we are not criticizing anyone. We want to encourage dialogue. Because sometimes if there is no dialogue, that's when people cannot find each other. So that is why I'm saying we'll try our effort to see where that can get the Minister of Arts, the Minister of Labour, and see how far we can take the process forward.
Let's start here. You're talking about the Minister of Labour, and I'm glad the Minister of Labour is the former General Secretary of SADC who would understand the labour issue. That's actually our starting point, where we should say to Honourable Tulas Macy, can you sit us down and together with your DG, can we work out who are we defined as? Do we have an official definition for work that we do? Let me make an IG. If a person is working at the hospital, in charge of the nurses there, in charge of the cleaning staff, the medical staff, that person is called a CEO of that hospital. If a person is busy with our electrical faults and we are in serious trouble as residents, you know that the next call you must do is to pick up and ask for the assistance of an electrician. You spoke about the CEO there, you spoke about the electrician there. If you see that the stormwater drainage is giving problems out there, you can't ride or get your car into the yard because you have those problems down there, and there is water flowing all over the show, you know that the next stop should be nothing else but a plumber. And all these people have their universal titles. And then we say to our honorable leader in the labor portfolio and unemployment portfolio, we don't have yet a universal definition of the work what we do. One day you called an actor, the other day you called an entertainer, the other day you called a social commentator, the other day you called a clown, the other day you called a storyteller. We don't have a clear cut. That's where possibly we need to start, so that we develop that part and deal with it, and so that we are able then to formulate your grading. We're able then to formulate the categories under which we operate, so that the levels could then determine at a later stage the basic salaries or whatever monies that you should be getting based on that. But lastly, I must come to yours.
I think
you are in the finance and in issues. There is no way that an artist can begin to talk about investment, because that artist is not sure whether that money is going to get or not tomorrow.
I wanted to say, Rachit, this input that you have just done now is very important, but it will be more appropriate once we have these key stakeholders. So during that time of discussion, those are issues that we need to engage. I just want to, because I'm worried about your time, I just want to go back on what you said. One day I had Dr. Ali Baha, former cricket boss, whom I've known for many years. We have been friends now for 25 years. You know, Dr. Baha is one of those people who mentored me. We were talking, and then I was saying, Dr. Baha, sometimes people don't understand that sports, whether it's cricket or football, boxing, whatever, that markets the country. All right?
True.
And as it markets the country, people will know about this country. Today, all our kids, they want to go to America because of what? The musicians are in America, the actors are in America. They have positioned themselves. So I'm saying what we have just said, it fits well for this industry to be treated like a serious industry. Because once you have those people marketing the country, do you see what's going to happen? The country will have an influx from outside. And that influx brings skills, brings investment, and we grow. Do you understand? So you've said something very powerful. And I like what you have said in your input. That the actors, because I was asking myself, sometimes as ordinary people, the public, if you invite an actor say, hey, give me 2,000 or whatever, people feel that they are bad. But if you look at it very closely, like you said, these people, they don't have contract. If they have contract, it's a 3-year contract. Now, being 3-year contract, what does that mean? You can't get a mortgage. You can't get a car. And that put pressure on the actors. Remember, they're in the public eye.
Yeah.
Apart from putting a pressure, because they're in the public eye, it becomes unfair. So those are some of the things that needs to be engaged. But nevertheless, Brakit, I do understand those issues. That is why I'm saying there is a cry out there, because I'm sure you are representing many who want to know, what is our work? Can you be taken serious? And I'm saying, from my humble opinion, if the department can see these people as adding value to the economy of the country. I've just made an example of Americans. Our kids, they want to see Jay-Z, they want to see Kanye West and all that, because of the marketing that has been put. So I think that's what we should do, and make our people professional and bring income.
But also, if I may add, Michelle,
Yeah.
every coin has two sides.
Yes.
Once we attempt to address and create the normal working conditions and improve them, if there is a possibility of that, we must also take the other side of the coin and point a finger of accusation to ourselves. Some of us, especially in what the big R is handling here, the area of finance, investments and things, sometimes our fellows get very plumpy proceeds out of some of the contracts. But one of the things that has got to be drilled in our minds is financial discipline.
And
We do not have
education.
Yes, we don't have. We get a lot of money, and the next thing this guy or this lady has had a beautiful show. He or she has been roped into a festival, and that festival gives her well over 120,000 or so. She has been singing out of Bloemfontein or Cape Town or Durban or whatever. And the next thing, she gets another one, maybe that gives her about 80,000 or so. And so in 2 jobs, this person has got almost $250,000. Huh? Now, instead of this person saying, my first stop should be at the door of the financial planner's office or a financial advisor's office, to say, how best do I take this $250,000 so that it works for me, so that it brings in some interest, so that out of it, I must be able to be paying my loan, my bond, my car loan, and so on. For the next 6 months, I should have been stable. And stability is key in an artist because you don't know what tomorrow has in store. So financial stability is key, and therefore financial education. So I want to come back to us and say, the quicker you pounce onto a healthy contract, think about financial education.
Brakit, let me do this. You said it a mouthful, and fortunately enough, the Big R is providing answers. The Big R, we have what you call membership club and support group. Not only that, we have the sister organization called UTA. UTA, which is EUTA. Now, the Big R membership, we educate about money, we educate about business. Support, we look at Brakit, as Brakit, his budget and his family. We phone Brakit twice a month and his family to look at your budget with your family. Remember, your family has an impact on your budget. So we spend time and talk to you. And guess what? We are not saying these are answers all. We are not guaranteeing. But let me tell you, I've got a lot of success stories in the Big R. And you'll be surprised, Brakit, when I say we've got accountants who are the members of the Big R Foundation, the Big R membership. We have lawyers, we have teachers, we have principals, ordinary people, ordinary business people who are there. And I'll give you one. There's one lady, Brakit, who listened to me one day on the City FM. Then she called. She said, Dadeshabalala, I always follow you talking about money. And I enjoy the way you do it. I want to make money. You know what was my answer, Brakit? I said, very simple. He said, what do you mean? I said, firstly, educate yourself about money. Now the next question is, where can I get education about money? There's no school in the whole world that teaches about money. I said, fortunately enough, in the Big R, we taught ourselves how money works. So we then decided to come up with a program. And that lady then asked, then she joined both the support and the membership. She went further. She bought all our books. Those are our books. All right?
This lineup here.
This lineup.
Yeah.
That explain personal and business finance. She bought all the books. And then she read the books, she would call, because what I would say, because I'm always busy, Brakit, and that is why I formed the membership. So that when we have a classes of the membership, then you have your question lined up. Guess what? I'm just giving you one example. This lady, as I speak today, she bought herself a house and partitioned it into 6 rooms and rented it out to school kids. Student accommodation, 2,000 each room. She's making 12,000 out of that property. The mortgage, because she bought it via mortgage. People don't understand that debt is money. The rich use debt to be rich. But good debt, not bad debt. The mortgage that she bought the money with, she's paying 5,000.
So double it.
Yeah, she's making 7,000 profit. Now this is, I taught her, but there's this thing that I always tell people, we are all intelligent. What I will do as the Big R will simply open up the mind and, you can do better. And that's what I saw in her. After learning, she then went out of her own way. She approached NSFAS to say, NSFAS, can you pay for this kid? Now she's guaranteed every month she'll get 12,000.
Because NASFAS has gone,
It
they're
has
in the
come.
program, yeah.
Then I went further to her and said, look, it doesn't end there. You must maximize. Business is about maximization. I said, how do I do that? I said, it's very simple. Look for somebody who can cook well, but look at the hygiene, because food safety is important. And cook for these kids. Then you go to NASFAS and say, now I'm cooking for them. You add the money. You look for another one who can do washing and iron. You go to NASFAS again, because these kids are here to learn. Now, you have even given employment. That has been done, Rakit. So I just wanted to, there are a lot of examples. I just wanted to show that people, you tell them about simple things and say, they think it's a long way. It's not. It's not. It looks simple. I read a book. How do I actualize it? We'll guide you and help you. I've got a whole lot of people who have joined the membership club. This is my journey. This is the journey of the bigger. Then we have UTA. As I said, it's EUTA, which stands for Entertainment Universal Talent Agent. In the team, we have 2 lawyers. Our purpose, our job is very simple, is to look at the contract of the artist.
Yeah, but you can hold on to that. When you arrange the meeting we're talking about, or whatever engagement, especially with both Tula Sizwe and
The Minister of
the Minister.
Well, in fact, all ministers, but we can start.
No, but we've got the whole range. Remember, I said a interministerial trustee.
Yeah.
But the person who must be charged with that is the Minister of Arts and Culture.
Mm-hmm.
To say, this is what we proposed many years ago. Are you ready to consider it now? Or what kind of engagement has happened? Maybe this might not be necessary now. We have not been given some clarity or some press release that talk to this. Then we take it from there.
No, I'm not. That bracket can be done, for the artist. The idea is.
But all this beautiful idea.
No,
they get located there. We said to him, we are looking at all ways and means of normalizing the working conditions.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges we have seen is them, the practitioners, struggling with finance education, and we have an answer.
And then let me tell you something, Rakit. Under UTA, currently we have 2 artists. We have Frank Hasina, who's an artist. Well, by virtue that he's my son, luckily for him. We have Anthony Fori, who plays on Scheme Sami as the Hassan Post. We negotiate contract. Frank will tell you, sometimes it takes us a while, 6 months or so, negotiating a contract. Because sometimes I'm still going to interview record labels, because I hear artists complaining and blaming the record labels. But let's look at it this way. The record labels, when they give you a contract, they don't put a gun bracket. Now, our artists, they don't interrogate. Now, because he wants to appear on TV, he wants to be famous, he signs. And he has signed his life away. Now, so why these artists, and we still want others to join so that we help them. A contract is a two-way responsibility. The big R stands for all the positive R words. One of those R words is responsibility.
Yeah.
All of us take responsibility. Once a contract has been signed with our artist, we look at the responsibility of the company. At the same time, we also look at the responsibility of the artist and say you must meet 1, 2, 3 as per the contract. And they will tell you, especially my son, they will tell you, I would always check, have you met what is in the contract? You see, they need it. They need it. Because it's not a one-way traffic. Remember, a company, when it says, bracket, I give you a sponsor, they want some kind of mileage out of it. So it's not a one-way traffic that they just give you the money and you don't give them mileage. It's a two-way traffic. And if you give them mileage, you know what? They get excited to get more.
Yeah, sure.
Did you understand? So that is the reason why UTA is there. I'm not selling UTA per se. I'm just giving you a reason why we formed UTA.
No, it's a good one.
Did you understand?
But also, it is critical to check whether are they interested either with the DG or with the minister to start this negotiation or this conversation. And you see, some of us have become quite impatient about these processes because there's a word that is becoming, if you like, unwelcome in some of our mouths. Or there's this word, each time you hear an authority or an official responding to something, then there is this line, which for me has become very unpopular. We need to engage. We need to open this chapter. We need to look at revising. Why should it be need to all the time? When it's supposed to be, it has been done. If there's a need for the addition, let's look at the addition. Exactly. It has been done. If there's a need for trimming, let's look at the trimming. That has been done. Maybe if you would like us to add this particular wing, which it will be added. So that's what I'm saying. Let's go out of this theory side of things.
Action.
I was telling you, Mfokamishin, the other day, and said people are talking about, we're on lockdown, we're on third wave, we are in serious trouble. The arts practitioners have long been in lockdown. They've long been in COVID era because many of our opportunities have been closed long before the pandemic. So what we need to be doing now is to work hard to go back to a normal scenario that will defeat these conditions long after COVID.
You know, Brakit, you have mentioned something very important, which I want to make it a last input because I want to release you now. But we'll continue this discussion to say all the time you get this popular line, we need to engage. We need to. You know, at the big R, there's a method that we call the read method. You know, when you write read, it's R-E-A-D. I say to people, if you apply the read method, you never fail. What does the read method stand for? The R stands for respond. Get the information now. Do you respond? You've just spoken to the artist. They hear what you are saying, that they are not organized. Can they respond to what you said? Now, responding, you need to understand, it's not easy, Brakit. It will take effort. It will take extra time. It will take expertise. It will take energy. You must be prepared to go that extra mile. That's the E part of it. Now, the most important one that I always emphasize is the A part of it. We stand for action. Yeah. I say, this is what you are saying. Can an action be done? I was talking to Jody as we were coming to the studio. I said, Jody, if you don't act, nothing's going to happen. For instance, I'll give you an example. 3 years ago, I always wanted to start this YouTube channel. But you get so many ideas and opinion, it's not going to be professional. You're not going to start. This and that, experts. They're experts. There are a lot of experts. Then I said, you know what? It's not going to happen if we are waiting until we are perfect. I said, let's get started. Let's dive in. Let them criticize us. Of course, we make mistakes. But the more we make mistakes, the better they're going to be. But what is most important, we would have taken action. Then I said to Jody, have you seen a dog? A dog will never bark a stationary car. A dog will bark a moving car. So once you have that, then you'll know. This is what we are saying. Let us will engage. And the action part of it, when is it going to come in? And remember, the D stands for the decisiveness. The action must be decisive.
Yeah.
And the action must be determined, dedicated, disciplined, drastic. You see, if you do things, I was telling him as we were coming, I said, Jody, me, when I wake up, and with the team that I work with, my colleagues, I always emphasize, guys, when we work, it's not about money. It's about the day's task. What are we doing in a day? And at the end of the day, look back, what have you done? Every day, you should be able to know what you have done. And once you look at the money, you'll never do anything. You'll wait for the money. Had we wanted the money to start this YouTube channel, we could not have done anything. Muyema, who's our cameraman, Jody, Jason, Muyema said, I wanted to join you. I said, there's no money, as long as you are prepared. And you'll have the right mentality. And he said, no, but I want to be there. That's the kind of spirit that I want, because you build. And fortunately enough, to build Rakit, it takes a while. It takes a while. It takes a while.
No, I know. I have not been dealing with your wounds.
It does not want people who are in a hurry. If you are in a hurry, you'll never make it.
I want to end up with my cap of social commentator and read your audience the poem.
Yeah.
And it's here. Give me that. Open it, my son. Because it is our duty to throw in some conscience to ourselves. But it also, as we wrap this discussion, I want people to understand, as Mshemu said, we are engaging in a very serious interaction with each other. How best do we get the creative arts field improving in terms of working conditions, in terms of job creation, in terms of proper management of the sector? How do we, in conjunction with all concerned? We are not about to be scolding or sidelining or point game, blame game. No, we are about finding a practical way forward for the creative arts sector to blossom. And together we can do it. I want to say to all of you out there listening to this program, come on board. Join in, and Mshemu, Mabutho Kid Sithole are inviting all of you. Let's go in and check whether can we be change agents with the involvement of all relevant people in bettering the lives of those that are called. In view of what has been happening in our country of late, one sat down on a very important day in the history of South Africa and penned this poem that seeks to be a response. As a social commentator, this is a response to what has been happening in July, what some people call unrest. And the title is called Kazi Gozuza Bani Na. Sakani Mabisitugu Sokhela washa uhanguhangu sakhanywa intuthu esimbozile sadideka sithi kuyedlula sisamangele kwabhebhethe kasibona abandawonye yini kazi ozuza bani na washa wanqunqa waphela wena mnotho wawa wena sakhiwo wokhelwa wena loli wavutha nomthwalo wodlani mphakathi woqasha nje wena bhungu wenze njani wena qhikiza kazi kozuza bani. sophunyuka yini nali kanti lizolala eziko sibhekile nazi izimboni zikhasa zingabaza ikhulu kuyingebhe yodwa kwembula kwembeso kubuzwane kovulwa na khuza mzali kushubile kazi kozuza bani singazitika ngeimpahla sihlomule singakhokhile singatshata sithi galo yephuka sihamba nayo lempahla siphunyuke komngqayi sizibe onembeza habe sizigwaza ngowethu kazi kozuza bani na izizwe ngezizwe inhlangothi zonke inkinga zikhona indlela zokuthola impendulo ziyahluka ingeke ibe enye yazo lena iyethusa le ethathiwe kazi kozuza bani na cha bakwethu cashani kepha koze kube nini velani bo sizinuka amakhwapha sanuka amandulo bethi ngeke silibuse akubona bavuna lokho cha ake sigaye ngomunye umhlathi cha bakwethu ake sigaye ngomunye umhlathi sekwenzeke konke kazi kozuza bani na umbhali uMabutho wakwaSithole usuku azalwa ngalo umongameli wokuqala kulizwe lakithi mhla zu-18 kuJulayi 2021 kazi kozuza bani na.
Rakit, thank you very much. Before we go, I just want to slightly tell us the name Mabutho. How did that name come about?
4 boys, I know, but I was the 4th. So the predecessors, we were 3 brothers. So they came on board, and when I came on board, my dad said, hey, how we wish at least some variety could come through. At least we've got 3 fellows, at least if it could be a young lady. And when I joined the Sithole family, unfortunately, ma'am, it was another boy. And so my parents decided, Aphelela Mabutho was 4 boys. That's why I ended up being Mabutho. That's why I always introduce myself as I'm Mabutho, I was told, because it's 4 complete warriors of the Sitholes. Then I was born, because we're all from Christian family, Emmanuel Mudimu Onale Road. Bona was told Mabutho Fitli. Finish.
And Rakit, before you go, in the closing remarks, thank you for coming. I really appreciate. We'll still engage. There's quite a lot. Dialogue helps. As I say, the Big R, we have a whole lot of things that we deal with. The first book is called Secrets for Becoming Rich. That teaches the richness. And then the second one is how I turned 500 into $1 million business. And then the other one is called How to Get Out of Bad Debts. Remember I said there are 2 types of debts. Use other people's money and resources to get rich. And then the other one is written by a friend of mine, Nomsa Masbogo. Nomsa, she's a lady in Witbank. This lady owns about 7 guest houses. And one of his guest houses is like a 5-star. Normally when I'm in that part of the world, I sleep there. Then this other one, it's called The Art of Money. This one has been written by a friend of mine, Dr. Small. Dr. Small is an economist by profession. She worked for the Reserve Bank for 37 years as an advisor to Reserve governors. The last person that she advised before she retired was the current Minister of Finance, Mr. Tito Bowen. And then the other one is the Science of Success, written by Kenneth Karim. Kenneth Karim is a pastor in the world of Witbank. So We talk money.
I like that. The art of money.
The art of money. The art
Title
of
of
money.
it.
Yeah. And having written by somebody who's from the Reserve Bank. You know, when we launched our membership club, that was the 1st of November 2019. Dr. Small was there as one of the people to share the stage with us, and also friends of mine. They're here in Kempton Park, the Baladakis. They own about 11 malls in their names, and then about 10 Pick and Pays. It's a family, it's 2 brothers and the old man. But may the old man so rest in peace. He passed on last year due to COVID. They came there just to share how they started, because you learn from others, especially people who have traveled the road. That is why we brought people like you to share that experience of us.
Now, my parting shot, Emma and Dolly and Shim, is that many people ask, but we don't see you on television. I normally say to them, the cultural phenomenon, or if you like, cultural activism, doesn't start and end only on television, and there are other sides of it. I'm currently involved in another side of it that wants to defend the current plight of the indigenous languages. Our indigenous languages are taking a dive, and some of us are saying it can't be. Ke rata batho ba buang Sesotho ba e beha hantle haholo ha ba re mpempe wa lapisa motho kgona ke sa hae. Jwale rona ra botsa hore ho tla jwang rona re nyefole tsa rona. A ke re leleme ke la rona, re desire bo maro hobaneng re le nyefola. E be re ema he rona sakha a shield to defend, a shield to develop, a shield to promote, a shield to preserve indigenous languages. That's why we are involved in ILIFA, Indigenous Languages Initiative for Advancement. My isiZulu, sidazibuye masisweni, and then Luna Bascoa, then back to our roots.
Brakit, lalela ke. Sizayixoxa ngelinye ilanga. I wanted to say, in most cases, mangibukela uyafa like Dorit. Sizayixoxa.
No, it's a very good one. You remember you said earlier on, you spoke about contracts. In